Hi, Experience Christian Church. It's great to be together today. My name is Nate Hartman. There's a statement we make around here that I really appreciate, and that's that you can belong before you believe. To me, that makes this a safe space to invite friends and family who may be a bit weary of Christianity and know they'll be met with acceptance and love. So if that's you, welcome twice. We'd love for you to say hi in our chat window so we can get to know you a bit better. If you're new here and have questions or would like more information, please text ECCInfo at 94000, and please just let us know how we can be praying for you. Today we're going to hear a message, we're going to have an opportunity to take communion together, sing some songs, and you'll learn about some of the more connection opportunities. We're happy to have you with us today.
We will lift our eyes, we won't fear the fight. There is one who is stronger. Hard pressed on each side, we will not lose sight of the one who is greater. One name holds every victory. One voice that silences the enemy. One King who reigns for all eternity. Jesus.
Hey there, my name is Carrie, and I'm the Director of Ministries here at Experience Christian Church. We are so excited you're joining us, whether that be online on Sunday morning, at our in-person service, or even later this week. Our new round of groups is kicking off, and there is still opportunity for you to join. Groups are for anyone and everyone looking to further their spiritual journey or connect meaningfully with others. There are morning and evening groups, online and in-person groups, and a variety of topics being studied. On Sunday, October 3rd, we are hosting Welcome to Experience at 11:30 a.m. at the Boy Scout Center in Exton. Welcome to Experience is the first step for anyone new to Experience who wants to learn more about our church, has questions about anything related to Experience, or wants to become part of our community. Lunch and childcare provided. We just ask that you RSVP under events on our website. And finally, there are 2 ways you can share your financial resources at Experience. First, caring for children all around the world is important to us as a church, and we are thankful to be able to partner with Compassion to sponsor children from a small village in Colombia. We started this partnership on Easter of this year, and to date we have sponsored 29 of the 45 children in this village. This means those 29 children are receiving food, education, medical care, community support, and an opportunity to learn about the love of Jesus. If you would like to sponsor one of the remaining children, you can visit our website under Give to learn more. Second, you can partner with the Mission of Experience. Sharing resources with our local church is something we get to do, not something we have to do. If you would like to join this mission, you can do so safely at givetoexperience.com. And now, week 2 of Good Work, finding your passion and purpose in the space you're in.
Think for a moment about some of your bosses that you've had, or if you're a student, think about some of those teachers you've had, and think for a moment how many bosses you've had. Like, how many did you have? And I look over my career, I came up with 13. And when I look at that entire list, there are some unique characters there. You know, it's easy to list things and qualities I appreciate about each and every one of them. There's also some things that, given their opportunity or in their shoes, I would probably do something a little different. But every single one of them served a purpose in my life, teaching me lessons that'll carry with me forever. I mentioned last week that retail was my first real job, but when I got to thinking about it, my first paycheck came as a farmhand as I worked privately for a lawyer and her husband. This couple could not have been any more different. They had a gentleman's farm, and that's what my role was. I got to tend the gentleman's farm. She was a lawyer with an ambition for politics. She knew how to talk. She knew how to walk. There was a special way about her. She was very proper. But her husband, he was a bit more, no, he was not refined at all. He was a cowboy, literally a cowboy. He was a bronco rider with the scars, fake teeth, and walk to prove how banged up his life had been. They could not have been more different. But looking back, that job was a blast, and it could have really been a reality show in the making. I was their only employee, as I mentioned, at their home site, so every day I would show up and it was an adventure. I could do mundane, normal tasks like mowing, feeding the livestock, repairing things on the farm, or I could just do chores or haul things. It was very interesting. But every now and again, I got to do these really fun random tasks. They went away for a business trip, and as a senior in high school, I got to stay in their guest home and manage that farm entirely. And for those 2 weeks, I got some really fun tasks. Like, I got to feed their baby sheep by a bottle, cleaned up after it, and it was raised in their house, literally in a baby pen full of like mulch and chips and stuff. It was funny. I also got to keep the battery of their Corvette charged by driving it around. Gary said, keep it under 85, and laughed, and I laughed too. And I went 84 because he had a digital speedometer. So, you know, kept some integrity there. But it was such a fun job. And again, it was more like a reality show, and I was part of their family. Remember this one time that I really upset her, the boss, and found myself caught in the middle of this marital tension moment. It was a Saturday. She had a household full of political guests, and they were out, and it was a party. And I was working with him on the farm, and he wanted to get out of there. So he was wearing jeans, a duster, and he said, let's get out of here. Let's go get my hair cut. And I'm like, sure. And he's like, but I want to go to your barber. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a good chore for the day. My barber was really good at giving haircuts, but short haircuts. He came back looking like a cue ball. He knew he was going to get it when he got home, but he loved it. He kept laughing and rubbing his hair. And I'll never forget her words as she saw him for the first time. She gave him a shame on you for getting that haircut like that, and shame on you for taking them. That was my first scolding by a boss. I made one boss super happy. He was giddy about his haircut. But my other boss, she was not liking that at all, or was amused at the least. Was it the right move? Having two bosses can be complicated at the same time, right? Work sure can be hard when we don't know who's the boss. But this week in our series, Good Work, Finding Your Passion and Purpose in the Space We're in, we're addressing who's ultimately in charge. Who am I working for? It's an interesting question depending on the stage of life that you're in. If you're currently a student, obviously every teacher or professor has authority over you. If you're an athlete, you probably report to a coach. You know, if you are working for a mom and pop company, similar as I was, you're not quite sure how to answer that at times. It's kind of this bunch of bosses and you don't know who to answer to and who's ultimately in control. Maybe you're at a company with a very defined org chart, but you find yourself in the middle. And sometimes it gets messy when layers of bosses come in and give you some directives and you're not sure exactly who to please. Well, a lot of people, they like to think about how they would do things differently if they were the boss. Well, whether you're in a classroom or on a sports field or have a position on the org chart or you're self-employed, the question I'm asking today has a Sunday school answer. When I ask who's the boss, if you're a Christ follower, there's one answer that sticks out. Because if you are a Christ follower, in that scenario, we ultimately work for, answer starts with a J, has 5 letters, you got it? Yes, Jesus. If you came up with that, well done, you nailed it. But saying it's one thing, living it out's quite another. You know, we pause long enough to reflect on the truth of this sentiment. It changes our day-to-day operations because sometimes we're completely overwhelmed with what a boss is asking us or how to conduct ourselves at work if they feel some tension in those moments. But when we allow and make Jesus the boss, even of our vocation, there's implications to it. We show up to work differently. We care for our children differently. We care for family members differently. Every role just takes a different light when it becomes this is our issue. The question matters because work is a huge part of our life. Work is necessary. Talking about this at work is necessary. Why? Because so much of our lives are wrapped up in this topic. Gettysburg College research said that the average person will spend 90,000 hours at work over their lifetime. A whopping third of your life spent with work. So work matters. And it shouldn't be something we just accept or coast through or do until we retire. No, we should think about work. Work, it's got a bad rap though, hasn't it? Many of us see work as a necessary evil, just a way to pay the bills, something to endure or tolerate. I started following an Instagram account regarding work this week and check out some of these photos I got from there. Some were funny like this one. A supervisor asked, "Hey, what kind of special skills do you have?" And the employee said, "Look, I'm a turtle." I just love those gloves in the back pocket there. I think that guy's definitely either an engineer or will become an engineer, right? This one could be helpful to you. I once worked with someone who told customers, "Sorry, it's my first day," anytime they messed up for 2 years straight. That's hilarious. Some were directed directly at bosses. I don't always ask my employees how they are, but when I do, I walk away before they answer. Ouch. And most troubling to me that I saw was this post, a screenshot from urbandictionary.com, and it was how it defined work. And I checked it out. It's the prevailing definition on their website. Read this. It says they define work, and that's voted by popular opinion, and this was number 1, as doing something you hate in a place you hate with people you grow to hate for the majority of your life, the majority of your day, and for the majority of your life. Man, read that again. Doing something you hate in a place you hate with people you grow to hate for the majority of your day and for the majority of your life. Man, work by and large is viewed as something to endure. Even many Christians see work as a curse. We talked about that last week. They see that God, He made work as a consequence because of sin or Adam's sin. And while it's true work can be more challenging because the world was affected by sin, our call to create and cultivate, to make this world flourish, it's been here since the very beginning. God created work. It was part of the creation story. Work was created by God, and we were created by God to do it. We looked at this verse last week, and it says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Last week's big idea was any job with any role and any work can become good work when we connect our task with a godly purpose and passion. This is true regardless of your role or title. Whether you are a stay-at-home parent, a caretaker, you have great work to do. Last week we explored that creation mandate that we were created to create, to help this earth flourish. Things should be better because of our efforts and involvement. We said Jesus, he did this perfectly, and we're to follow in his ways. He wants us to be a life-giving presence in every sphere we enter, any place at work. So last week's question was, how can I be a life-giving presence at work? This week, as we address who's the boss, I hope each of us is challenged and encouraged to not see the person that gives us our paychecks or the person that gives us our grade or even ourselves as the ultimate authority, but rather we look to Jesus. We look to him to find motivation and encouragement. The Apostle Paul, a follower of Jesus, said this about work in Colossians 3. He says, "Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ." Paul's calling all of us to understand that in our work, regardless of our title or role, we need to view it as a service to Jesus, to connect with our passion and purpose. You know, last week I mentioned that there was a statistic that said nearly 70% of the workforce consider themselves disengaged from their work. That means this verse has huge implications of our culture that is desperate for good workers. Two other memes from that Instagram account stood out to me because they're very true. The first was someone saying to someone else at work, "I don't think of you as a coworker because you never do any work." And the second is, the people you work with really do determine how much you enjoy your job. So what's it like to work with someone who doesn't care about their job, that doesn't care about their quality of work? It's not very good, is it? No one enjoys being on the losing team. No one wants to produce mediocre work at their core. Many people, right or wrong, they can find themselves blaming their personal performance on their coworkers, or their manager, or their coach, or their boss. I've done that, it's natural. But when we take Paul's words seriously, we can be the game changer at work because we realize Jesus is our boss and we're trying to please him. The quality of our work naturally goes up and our hearts and attitudes change. And we need to stay focused, don't we? Our natural inclination can be to do the minimum. I remember when I was training new managers at retail, I would always discuss with them the company standards. Company standards are great. I would say, here's a clothing rack. Items need to be sized in this order. Jackets should be zipped. Pants should be tucked and folded. Speaking of folding, here's proper folds. Here's our t-shirt folding board, and these sizes work this way. This is how you work it out. The accessories, when you go to the bins, they should be labeled out in straight rows. The shoes, they need to be restocked with all available sizes out, in size order. For those of you that go to a retail space and create chaos and mess all that up, shame on you for doing that, right? Well, after presenting the standards to that manager, I would say, these are the expectations of the store before you leave at the end of the night. Now hear this, every employee here knows these standards, but what they don't know is, will you enforce them? Tonight's your test. If you ask everyone, hey, does everything look good? They'll say, looks good to me. And that's not a lie, because to them, they don't care a whole lot. At least not some of them. But you'll need to say something different. You'll say something along the lines of, is everything up to standard? And they'll give you a different response. So I would encourage you as the manager, as the leader, to go through there throughout the evening. Help them accomplish this. Because if you don't, you'll be here till 10:30 at night. You know, in standards, and we have those, it keeps us from good enough work, doesn't it? An effort that we, in honesty, we can know what subpar work looks like. We know what it's like to do just enough to get by when it falls below the standard, when we're cutting corners. And at your job, you know the things the person you report to investigates and the things that are off their radar. You know the system at your job, at school, you know the standard of excellence, but you know how just to get by enough not to get in trouble or to have to do extra work. But here's the question. When you're saying Jesus is my boss, it's not that it has to be this cruel, guilt-ridden thing. It just changes how we see our work, doesn't it? Again, this isn't about shaming or guilt-induced, but it's like, God, you've created me for a purpose, and I'm showing up to work for a purpose. So how do I do this job well? How do I do this particular role in a way that honors you? Because when that's the basis of our questions, things change and the role looks differently. If you'd like to read a wonderful book on this, and we'll go into detail, I would encourage you to look at The Practice of the Presence of God. It's a great book written by Brother Lawrence. And he was a member of the Carmelite monastery in Paris. And for him, everything was about intimacy with God. Listen to his take on work when he says, what makes you think that God is absent from the maintenance shop, but present in the chapel. Holiness doesn't depend on changing our jobs, but in doing, for God's sake, what we have been used to doing for our own. You know, for Brother Lawrence, there wasn't anything different between what happened in a chapel on Sunday and what happened at his workplace Monday through Friday. It was truly about this intimate relationship with Jesus. Because when we see it that way, things change for the better. So how do we make this idea practical? We know what God cares about most, don't we? He cares about our relationship with Him and our relationship with others. The greatest commandment is to love God and to love others. And if we read all of Colossians 3, it's pretty intense how Paul outlines some things that we can do and stop doing. But one thing he makes very clear right away is that if we're going to honor God with our work, we have to invite Him, not just into our workspace, but into our hearts and into our lives to help us live out this divine partnership. Divine partnership is language used a lot around here, which we talk about. Behavior modification only gets us so far. We want to invite God's Holy Spirit into our lives to help us change for the better. And as you read Paul's letter, if you read the whole book of Colossians, you'll see this time and time again. But it's obvious that Paul is saying we need to merge our lives with Christ. Not simply work on being a better worker, but really inviting God in to the internal struggles we all deal with. Paul knows that you and I know that if we're truly honest, the biggest problem in a lot of our workplaces is us. We participate in it. We're messed up. We bring messed up work. We think our boss is messed up. And everybody's all messed up to some degree. And so all of us, we have to realize that, God, if I'm going to play a role in helping make this a better place, I need you to play a role in my own life. We see that over and over again in Scripture. We cannot attain the quality of workmanship that allows us to be all that we can be without the involvement of the Holy Spirit in our lives. We must surrender our lives to Jesus and commit our lives to Him. But we also realize that even after accepting Him, the Holy Spirit just doesn't zap us into being who we want to be. We have to do as Paul says in verse 5 of this chapter. Put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within. We identify those things and we're like, God, I want to put these to death. And in verse 10 he says, put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. I find this little helpful saying, becoming like our boss requires us to learn the ways and become like Him. I'll say that again. To become like our boss, we need to learn His ways and become like Him. So on one hand, we just accept that this is a lifelong process of learning, applying, and trusting God to work in us. But I'd like to offer you two practical examples that you can begin applying tomorrow. These are two concepts you can apply from Jesus' most notable sermon, the one we call the Sermon on the Mount. So that's found in Matthew 5 through 7. And Jesus began this amazing sermon by describing the traits He was looking for in His followers. He said that God blesses those who live this kind of lifestyle in chapter 5. In other words, if you're looking to get promoted at work, to get ahead, these are the kind of behaviors that will get you noticed and take you places. Read this entire message of Jesus, again, found in Matthew 5 through 7. It's challenging and I would dare say impossible to live out without God's power. But two specific areas I'd like to check out. The first is at the end of the message, and it was in Matthew 7:12. And here are the words that Jesus says, and you know it as the golden rule. In Matthew 7:12, it says, do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law of the prophets. Another Bible translation, the Berean Bible Study, its simplicity is probably the simplest version, and you may have even said these words yourself. He says, in everything then, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the essence of the law and the prophets. This is your perfect golden standard if you're wondering how to handle a situation. Do to others as you would have them do to you. This is it. Incredibly simple, right? Tomorrow, if you're stuck wondering what to do, you could just say this. Do to others as you would have them do to you. It's beautiful, it's simple, it's fun to say, but boy, is it challenging. I was listening to a message from my pastor man crush. I know that sounds kind of weird, but a pastor that I really like teaching is Andy Stanley. And he called this the golden rule of work by simply changing two words. And he said, made it fit for vocation. He said, just take that rule, do to others as you would have them do to you, and substitute the word work. And there the example was, work to others as you would have them work to you. Again, very simple, right? Work to others as you would have them work to you. And then once you set up that framework, you could put in your own role in there and look at how you should live that out. So it would be blank to others as you would have them blank to you. But think about that. Think about that expression for a moment. It's brilliant. If you want to know how Jesus, our boss, wants us to live out our tasks, this is just an easy way to think about it. Build for others as you would have them build for you if you're a carpenter, right? And when you do this, it matters a lot if the pitch or the angles or if things are level or if things are properly sealed to repel water. When your boss comes up to you and says, hey, that looks good enough, let's close it up. You could say, I wouldn't be happy with this if I paid someone to come do this in my home. I'm going to give it another go. Maybe it's cleaning for others as you would have them clean for you. Good enough? Nope, it's not shiny yet. Account for others as you would have them account for you. Let's re-examine that tax deduction or that tax refund. For me, it's preach to others as you would have them preach to you. Maybe you're a salesman, sell a car to others as you would have them sell a car to you. Is this a good deal? Not if you're my grandma. Let me tell you about the transmission. This simple statement introduced by Jesus is absolutely brilliant. Simply considering these words helps us navigate the complexities of our jobs. Here's what I know is true for some of you. As you process this strategy of working this out for God, you have to recognize this is going to require extra from all of us. Extra is a God kind of standard. We all want to receive extra service from someone else, don't we? We get excited about extra. We are inspired by extra, and it may even encourage us to write a Google review about a company or a product, right? Take a picture. Did you see all this extra whipped cream I got on my ice cream? Here's a photo. Loved it. With that phone you just took a picture of, you could write a review about the Verizon associate who went above and beyond and helped you transfer your contacts from your old phone. He did so much more than just check you out. We love extra. Have you heard the expression, go the extra mile? Perhaps you've heard that. That phrase is in connection with Chick-fil-A a lot, and they call it extra mile service or second mile service. But the concept, it's not a new one. It was spoken by Jesus in this very same sermon we're talking about now. Although the original context was dealing with anger and getting revenge on someone else, it's accurately applied to the workspace as well. It's found at the beginning of this Sermon on the Mount. It's in Matthew 5:41. Just two quick lines. It says, if a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. And Jesus, he used this as an extreme example of dealing with problematic authority. And Jesus was a Jew, and they despised the Roman government. They were subject to this foreign military might, and it was painful and humbling task to have to carry a soldier's gear. Whenever people would see the Roman soldiers packing up and about to go somewhere, you could just imagine everyone scattering because they don't want to do this task. But it was a law, and if they were chosen, they would have to throw on that soldier's backpack and that gear and carry it for a mile. Then, after carrying it for a mile, they would walk back to do what they were doing. Well, how long does it take to walk a mile? It takes 15 to 22 minutes. And then, how long does it take to walk back? Another 15 or 22 minutes. So this isn't a minor request that Jesus was talking about. This is 30 to 45 minutes of your time. Beyond inconvenient, because you weren't standing around doing nothing, you were probably working, and now you're being asked to do something outside of your normal frame of work. This is a task you wouldn't want to do. You would be frustrated by having to do this task. And Jesus doesn't say, hey, we hate the Romans, don't carry their gear, tell them no, endure the consequence. But no, what Jesus says is, when you're asked to do it, go 1 mile, and instead of dropping your gear there, look at the soldier and say, I'm ready to go another. Spend more time and energy doing something not related to your immediate task at hand. Now we're talking about twice as far. We're at 4 miles now, 2 miles out, 2 miles back. This is an hour, hour and a half, depending on how far you walk. Jesus, are you crazy? Who has time for that? But this extra that Jesus calls for, it's about shock value. It's about getting recognized. We know that extra is recognized, celebrated, and rewarded. And whether you're a Jesus follower or not, you know this is applicable in any context. In Chick-fil-A culture, it's the way they challenge their employees to go beyond what's expected. It's found in simple places like the way a Chick-fil-A employee will say, my pleasure, after you say thank you. It's why someone comes to your table and refills your drink or takes the tray for you. That's not expected in fast food. 1 mile service is what's required. The 2nd mile service costs you extra. I think it preaches well at Chick-fil-A, but I do think there's a unique nuance that's important to consider. The person being asked to carry that soldier's gear, again, was not an employee of the Roman government. He was just a citizen. So a question that I ask is, how could you do an extra mile at your current work environment? At your work, This might mean looking at the space you occupy and thinking, how can I care about someone that's unrelated to my role? Maybe it's a custodial staff member, maybe it's groundskeepers, or it's a cafeteria staff. But the reality is God has you in your space for a reason. And the shock value may be that you actually notice someone who's completely out of your org chart, that you strike up a conversation, that you learn a name, that you actually see them and you invite them into a relationship with you. To me, this is the extra mile that stands out and provides us with an opportunity for great impact in the workspace. Keep reading the Sermon on the Mount and process that whole sermon in connection with your work, not just the second mile process, but what's it mean to love your enemies at work, to care for someone that's in need at work. It gets you challenging to think about worry at work, judging others at work. Extra, extra, extra will be the constant theme you see God calling you to. And whenever we have to do extra, it means we need the Holy Spirit's guidance and discernment to lead us how to do that. But we know that extra, it could revolutionize a workspace. It could change a culture. It could make the environment fun. It could make it more producing and life-giving. Because here's what I know is true. At your work, you're not just representing your employer, you're representing Jesus. Ultimately, that's our motivation in life, is how do we represent Jesus well at whatever space we find ourselves in, whether it's at home, at work, or in any role that we find ourselves in. We want to take an opportunity to use good work to make this world a better place, regardless of our role. When we do our job well, when we apply the filters Jesus asked us to do, when we give a little extra, it points back towards Jesus. Sometimes we think about, I'm just going to go to work, I'm going to do a good job so that I can get promoted, so that I get more money, so I can get a new title. But what if we had a bigger purpose than even that? And said, how can I point people back to God because of the way I work, the way I live out this conviction in me? You know, Jesus started his Sermon on the Mount with this beautiful proclamation to the crowd in Matthew 5:14. He told them, you are the light of the world. Like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden, no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see so that everyone will praise your Heavenly Father. What's your role at work if you're a Christ follower? It's to be an active representation and presence for God that shows light to everyone else. You know, and there it says, focus on your deeds. What do your deeds say? You know, maybe you talk a lot at work and you talk a good game about your faith. Maybe you don't talk about it at all, but do your deeds reflect an obedience and following of Jesus as if he was your boss? Does your work inspire others? You know, we shouldn't do good work at work just to get noticed or get a promotion, but we should do our good deeds so that everyone would praise our Heavenly Father when they see something different about how we work. I was talking to Jared. He's a Chick-fil-A owner and operator, and he's also a member of our management team here. And he has a way of coaching his team to see the customer experience beyond this simple transaction or their role. In his words, he reminds them that every customer that comes here has a story, and that every one of his employees get to play a small part in their day and interaction. You know, some customers, they may come here celebrating a win from the soccer field, and they decide to get Chick-fil-A on the way home. Others may be stopping in for Chick-fil-A because they're exhausted after a long day of work and they just want to take a meal home to their family. Been there. But they may be on their way to a hospital visit, or maybe coming home from one. And he explained to me that recently there was a child in his drive-thru that was celebrating 5 years cancer-free, and the family was just ecstatic to be able to do that. And to Jarrett, he tells his employees, we do so much more than sell chicken. They get to play a role in someone's story, to bring encouragement and light. But when each of us see people as God sees them, as people that he loves and cares for, it's easy to attach passion and purpose to our jobs. Like Paul said in Colossians 3, he says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. And remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and the master you are serving is Christ. Let's pray together. God, the subject of work is complicated. We could talk about skills and habits and ways to excel at work, but God, rather than just tasks that we can improve, God, I pray that you'll give us a heart change. That God will see work as a gift from you. And God, we see this as one more area of our lives where we infuse your Holy Spirit to guide us and direct us, to give us passion and purpose there, to think beyond the task at hand, but see this as a way to help people experience you in very practical ways. Help us to represent you well at our workplace. We love you and we're thankful for you. In Jesus' name, amen. This morning, as we go into a time of communion, I want you to listen to the song, Waymaker. The lyric that stood out to me in this song, it says, "You are here working in this place." And the truth of the gospel, as we've shared, is we need God to do a work in us. Because without God doing the work in us, we really can't do much, can we? This song is an invitation to relinquish control to God. To remember we don't earn our relationship with God. We simply accept his invitation. We acknowledge our own shortcomings and we say, God, we need you to change and to be like you. We relinquish our pride and we say, God, we need forgiveness. So as we head into a time of communion, we remember the sacrifice Jesus made that made a way for us to reconnect with God. Let this song get you thinking about that sacrifice and also get to thinking about your own work. Listen to this song and then we'll take the elements together in just a moment.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. Oh, I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, you're turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. Oh, I worship you. For you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop, you never stop. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
At this time, grab your elements. If you've made Jesus your leader and forgiver, this time is special for us because we reflect on that sacrifice that Jesus made and we celebrate this meal the way he commanded us to until we share it with him again in heaven. And so let's first take a piece of bread, which represents his body. And let's take the cup, which represents the blood that he shed on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins. If you'll pray with me. God, again, we say thank you for making a way for us to reconnect with the Father. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your Spirit. that enables us to live a life of obedience to you. In the places we fall short, we repent and we say, God, give us your Spirit to change for the better. And God, thank you for the grace when we don't. We love you and we're thankful for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you had a chance to connect with God in a meaningful way. Please reach out if you would like to connect more.